Hi, and welcome to another edition of Leading and Growing Your Real Estate Business. Hi, this is Coach James Short, and welcome to another episode. Wow, it's so excited to have a special guest on with us today, Daniel Nasso. Now, Daniel has been part of the Fairfax Media Group, looking after a lot of different areas. His current portfolio, like domain.com.au, domainrural.com.au, Price Finder, commercial real estate, domain business, print for Sydney Morning Herald and the Australian Financial Review. And you know what? This guy is a mover and shaker. He has won the High Achiever Awards, not just 1 year, but 3 years, 2015, 16, and 17, for the top performing media marketing account manager. So this guy is a world of knowledge, world of information, and super excited to have him on the call today. Daniel, mate, welcome. Thank you for your time.
No, thanks, James. Thanks for inviting me on your show.
Fantastic. Mate, you've had a colourful journey, and I'd love to hear more about the journey so far. Mm-hmm. Share with us how you got to where you are today in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, sure. Look, I'm originally from Sydney, from the Northern Beaches in Sydney, and my wife and I, we had an investment property up in Port Macquarie that we bought probably about 15 years ago. So one day I got jack of my job in Sydney and just decided that we'd chuck it in and we'd head to head to beautiful Port Macquarie and live in our investment property. And like a lot of people who've worked in sales, I just assumed and expected that and thought that, a job in real estate would be the way to go because anyone can do real estate. And moved to Port Macquarie in 2010 and tried my hand at real estate for about a year. And it was far more difficult than I actually gave it credit for initially. So I lasted a year, and then I did a bit of a sidestep into media sales and digital marketing. And from that role, I secured a job with Domain as the domain account manager on the Mid North Coast and the New England. So I've been with Domain now for coming up to 4 years, and it's I've not looked back at all.
Fantastic. Time flies. You would have had a busy weekend up at Port Macquarie with the Ironman and half and all that up there.
Yeah, it's huge. It's always huge. Yeah.
It's we've been up there a couple of times in racing in the event, and it just brings the town to life up there. It's such a beautiful place of the world. We definitely love it up there.
No, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous, and I feel really fortunate that that my wife and I and the kids live in such a beautiful location where we're really, without sounding like a cliche, but we're really blessed.
Love it. So with what you're doing at the now, what are you noticing with some of the clients that you're working with? What do you notice some of the biggest challenges with the agencies and the businesses out there that you are dealing with?
Look, in the regional market, it's in fact, all markets that I look after, they all think they have unique problems with VPA, but it's a problem. When I say it's a problem, it's a hot topic in all markets. Whether or not it's the regional market or even the metro market, VPA is kind of like a dirty word in the industry, and unfortunately, vendors sometimes don't see the benefit in giving their properties the absolute best chance. And the biggest exposure, and they expect that the agents have got to foot the bill for that sort of stuff. So that's a conversation that I have, almost daily with agents. And it's I can understand because when I was an agent, I just wanted to run in there, sign the property up, and I'd run back to the office with the exclusive agency agreement with a bit of a hop in my step because I'd secured the listing. And then my boss had asked me, whether or not I got any VPA, and I'd sort of sheepishly say, "Oh, no, but I got the listing." And I think often vendors really miss out because the agents are quite scared of broaching this subject. I think the vendors miss out on opportunities that are possible for their property and the sales results as well, because the agents are sometimes scared to bring the topic up.
Yeah, it's so interesting because it's a multi-layered sales approach, isn't it? Yes, cool, you got the listing, fantastic, happy days. But then you've got, the other areas, which is obviously all part of the listing process and getting those agency agreements. And then also best marketing the property and really getting the best opportunities for the vendors out there.
Yeah.
I guess with those challenges, just on that at the moment, with those challenges that the agents are finding, what are you recommending on how to actually deal with that? What are some of your strategies that you help them with?
Look at, you know, it's quite interesting. I mean, as you said before, you've got to have a multi-layered approach. And I mean, if you're not you know, if you're not all over digital and social, then, you know, it's kind of like going to a sword fight with a spoon. I mean, there's so many good operators out there these days, just offering the full gamut of media, to just, you know, and we like to use, you know, organically find a listing. I mean, there's some offices out there that are just happy to have a basic position on the site. And, you know, that the vendors and the agents expect that the buyers will just sort of stumble across those listings, and they do. You know, invariably they do. But they're, you know, those listings that are top of mind, top of the shopping list, they're the ones that, you know, they get, you know, create a competitive space for that particular listing, and they're, you know, ultimately the ones that get the best results.
Yeah, definitely. So let's get a little bit personal. What's because I always want to find out more about, you know, guests on and you know, because you're a leader, you're a thought leader, you're a mover and shake within the industry. What's some of the challenges that you've personally have overcome that you got, oh wow, that was a huge lesson. You've come through the other side, but at that time probably wasn't so good. But you've looked back and go, wow, that was a huge lesson that we worked through. What was that for you?
Yeah, look, it's a really good question. It's especially pertinent for real estate as well, especially people who have come from a sales role like I did in Sydney. We had a product to sell, you know, and you know, the company that I worked for, I mean, we were a contemporary furniture company, and we were at the higher end of the market, but the goods and the services were there in the showroom. And the people came to us, you know. One of the biggest learnings, I guess, if you like, with real estate is you've got to go and find the product, you know. So it's kind of a multi-layered perspective in sales, because you don't have anything to sell. You've only got yourself to sell, so you've actually got to go and find vendors to speak to. So hopefully they give you their trust to list their properties. And then you've got to sell to the buyers, you know. So it's this multi-layered, you know, sales approach. So, and this is the big, you know, misnomer with people who work in sales. They just, you know, real estate just seems like such a natural progression. Oh, just get into real estate. But you know, selling houses is just such a small portion of it. You know, it's the whole emotional roller coaster as well. And unless you're prepared for it, there's quite, you know, it's quite a shock to the senses if you're not aware of the potential roller coaster, an emotional roller coaster that you go on with your vendors and buyers as well.
So true. I like to look at it as the roller coaster at Luna Park, the Mighty Mouse. So you think you're going one way, next minute you turn, the carriage turns, and you're going still the same way. Next minute you sort of get a whiplash. It's like that roller coaster effect, as you said, up, down, left, right.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes you're not ready for it, and it just can get you.
Look, and I mean, I was only in real estate for a year. I mean, I've been in real estate now for 5 years, being with Domain, but just you know, just those experience. You know, I'm sure the people that listen to this podcast, and you know, a lot of you know, everybody in the industry. I mean, you know, there was one occasion where I sold the same property 3 times, you know, and when I said, you know, for the same vendor,
yeah,
and because a couple of the deals fell over, you know, so it's and just, you know, just the emotions around the reason why people sell, you know, the fact that, you know, it's quite often there's debt, you know, the 3 Ds, there's debt, there's death, debt, and often divorce as well, you know, and there's really difficult scenarios to deal with sometimes.
So true. So what about some wins? What are some of the wins that you're most proud of that you like to share with the audience?
Look, it was Domain's strategy about 4 years ago, or 4.5 years ago, when they decided to put a lot of account managers on in the regional markets, because up until then they'd had just a few account managers looking after the whole state, and obviously lots of bodies on the ground in the metro market, but Domain had only, in the regional market, the market I look after, New England and mid-North Coast, they only had about 65-70% client acquisition. So they obviously put us on in the regional markets to go out there and speak to all the clients. So as it stands today, we're close to 100% with our closest. In fact, in some cases, in some markets, we actually we've overtaken our closest competitor with regards to client acquisition. So that was a big push, and we've been successful in that. And that means that there's a lot of conversations around why people should become should join Domain, and in the regional markets, quite a few years ago, there was just an opinion that Domain is a metro brand, and that they'd sign up with Domain to attract the Sydney audience, but that's subsequently changed and at quite a rapid rate as well. I guess some of the other wins have been like when I've had a client recently who I've been having a lot of conversations with about a high-end trophy property here in Port Macquarie, and he had, he and I had worked very, very closely in tailoring a marketing campaign for this particular property in a price point that's not often seen in Port Macquarie, but commonly seen in Sydney. And we, over the course of a number of weeks, we did a digital, print, and social strategy, and got a record price.
Wow.
Really, really good. And to the agent's credit, he placed trust in me and in Fairfax Media and the Domain Group that the products were going to do what I had said they were going to do. So he rang me up only a couple of weeks ago to say that he was grateful for the relationship that we had and the success in the campaign, and it was he's a newcomer to the industry, or to this market as well, and it sort of lifted him up as well because he had such a successful win. So getting feedback like that's always nice.
That's always nice because it gives you that satisfaction that the agents had a win, and then also for the agent that the vendors had a win. So it's definitely a trickling effect of all the people that are part of that process, and everyone wins. So which is great.
Well, look at it, and that's the thing, James. It's there's some of these campaigns that they can be rather expensive. I mean, they get fantastic exposure, and if all the ducks aren't in a line, if the price isn't sort of on point, and the marketing's not right, and the photos are got to be right, and the text, etc., etc., etc. That such an investment in a large campaign can just potentially fall over if everything's not in place. So
definitely true. So let's looking at that. Like, so many things need to be in place. What are some of the things that you do, I guess, on a daily aspect to help you with your own business and continually to connect with your clients, and really, I guess, utilize the lessons from your challenges, from your wins that help you grow yourself and also the business?
Yeah, look, I always live by the my philosophy is always been that my client's perception of us and me is their reality, and what that basically means is, I try not to go in there with my own agenda, even though I do, I like to go in there with lots of data and be well prepared. But if I go in there and the principal doesn't want to talk about data and he just wants to talk about running the Ironman on the weekend, then that's what we talk about. So it's and quite often they just want to have a bit of a chat. They just want to hear about what's happening in the marketplace, what they can do to further enhance their profiles on the site. I'm not always going in there to push product, and because you don't want to, I mean, we're all in sales, but the time will the time will be right when it's right to talk about pushing product. So quite often, a lot of the time I spend in offices is about training the staff, helping them understand the data, and helping them get an edge. I mean, I have the same conversations with everybody, but just really maximizing their profiles on our side as well. Look, with regards to what I do to further sort of enhance myself and my operation, I spend a lot of time on the road. Like as I mentioned to you in my message, last week was in Tamworth, in a little town southwest of Tamworth called Corinda. So the drive home from Corinda was over 500 kilometres.
Wow.
There's a lot of time on the road, and a lot of my colleagues, especially in the rural markets, the regional markets as well, have a lot of time to listen to podcasts. I listen to a lot of podcasts. You might have heard this before. I call my car the University on Wheels. So
Perfect.
it's I listen to all. I digest as much as possible, just so that I'm on my game and motivated and continuously learning.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, the whole car university is such a valuable place, so much time that usually people are spending there, which you can learn and grow and definitely take some valuable bits of information. You talk about obviously going into many offices, so you'd be exposed to, I guess, a different array of teams, plus also the group, the domain group that you're part of and the Fairfax media that you're part of. So you've got part of a bigger organization as well. So if we talk about teams, what do you think makes a high performance team, and where do you think business owners fall down in creating these championship teams?
Look, I think that with Domain Group, I'll speak on behalf of the Domain Group. We love Domain. We really love Domain. We're even as corny as to post, green love hearts on social, and we all claim to bleed green, and we really do. A lot of us, me especially. I mean, having been brought up in Sydney, on the Northern Beaches, I used to buy the Sydney Morning Herald in my early 20s, because I've always been interested in property speculation. I used to buy the Sydney Morning Herald just to have, get out the domain insert, and it's always it's just something I've always done. So I brought that with me to Port Macquarie. Look, I think there's also, we love the competitive nature in what we do, and the fact that our closest competitor, they keep us in check as well.
Mm.
What we try to articulate with our clients, especially, is there's one audience, and they're split into two camps. One is green and one is red, and some of them cross over, some of them don't. We really make sure that our clients understand that they invest with us to attract our audience. So, and quite often they're two different distinct audiences as well. So, look, I mean, I've never worked for a company that has been so in love with the company, and we've got a great working culture. And I often think it could potentially be, come down to the fact that we don't work with each other either. We work remotely.
Yeah.
I always say that, potentially if we were stuck in an office together, we'd tear each other apart. But because we only see each other maybe, 4 or 5 times a year, we all get along famously.
Love it. I mean, yeah, totally. There's some great, pieces of advice here. And I think because you're also so independent, it can also make for great culture as well within that, the competitiveness within the team, the ability to also check in. But I guess for the love for the company, I think that's really important just to share that, because if you don't love what you do, if you don't love the people around you, what's the point really? It's crazy.
The regional team has got a great boss as well. Jane Porter, she allows us space to do, to shine. For us, for a lot of us that have worked in real estate as well, we still are working in real estate, but we're just looking at it from a different perspective.
So true. So you mentioned a bit about leadership. You mentioned about having a great leader where you're at with Domain. Mm. What do you think makes a great leader, and where do you think business owners fall down in becoming a true leader?
Look, I was listening to Simon Sinek about leadership the other day, and he was
incredible guy.
He is, and talk about a presenter. I mean, he was talking about people being promoted based on the fact that they are really good with customers, and then they get promoted, and then they've got to look after the people that are really good with customers. And there's not a lot of training that is offered to managers. And I was, as I said previously, I was a manager in Sydney, and you kind of just promoted up through the ranks. And for some people, they don't know how to be a manager, and they think managing is about micromanaging and sort of getting in people's face and and taking the kudos for the wins, but it's not about that. It's letting your team shine, And my boss, she does that in spades, and she does a really good job. And we're all extremely happy with the positions that we hold, because these sorts of gigs, these regional gigs, especially if you don't want to be in the city anymore, like my wife and I do. If you can score one of these regional, these sorts of positions with travel, we still get down to Sydney every 4 to 6 weeks for a catch up, but traveling around the amazing Australian countryside and meeting diverse characters. I mean, we deal with the stock and station guys all the way through to the different sorts of real estate agents. If you would have said to me 7 or 8 years ago that I was working for a furniture company that sent me to Milan for every April for the furniture fairs, and then I'd be talking to stock and station guys in Kempsey or Yarralla, talking about the price of wieners. I thought I would have thought you were crazy,
Oh, so funny. That's cool. Obviously, you've had some great mentors, and you said you listen to podcasts all the time. Tell me about mentors that you've used in the past, some of the results, learnings that you've mentioned Simon Sinek. Who else do you listen to, and what else kind of stuff do you like to learn?
Look, I mean, Josh Fegan, he's obviously a domain ambassador.
Yep.
I'm not just saying that because he's a domain ambassador, but he's a sharp operator.
Great guy.
Also, Damien Cooley as well.
Yep. Damo's a good guy, client of mine, but great guy. Yep.
Yeah, no, he's great. He's really good. I've rarely seen anyone so driven and sharp. I think he runs Ironmans as well.
Yep.
But also John McGrath. John McGrath's he's some of his his dialogues and his approach to the industry. He's just very, very switched on.
Yeah, definitely fantastic. So, advice. What are sort of top 3 pieces of advice for those, for those agents out there, those principals out there, in relations to your area of expertise that you could give them?
Look, know your stuff. I mean, that sort of sounds obvious. But like for my contemporaries, guys that work in my field, suppliers, it's really important that you have a passion for real estate, and that seems to it seems to be a given. But you've got to have a passion for real estate, and that's what I said before about Domain has a lot of staff that work for them that are in my role that have been, and we still got a lot of guys that work for us that are auctioneers. But I mean, you might have heard of Stu Benson. I don't know if you know Stu. Yeah. I mean, he's moved on now, but he was a great. He's our corporate spokesperson. But you've just got to have a passion for real estate. I think it's really important. I mean, my wife and I have been buying investment properties ever since we've been in our early 20s. You've got to divulge all the industry news as well. There's especially in the regional markets. There's often talk about the disruptors and what that means for the industry and how's it going to affect us. And, there's a lot of stuff that, I mean, I subscribe to Real Estate Business Online, and there's stuff weekly. There's disruptors coming into the market weekly that, have had private backers, to multi-million dollars, and, they come and go. And, I think this is just really important that you've got to concentrate on your core clientele. I mean, there's always going to be people that are wanting to disrupt the market and do it cheaper or do it differently. You can't get 100% of the listings.
So true.
Yeah. So it's something that you should be aware of, but I definitely wouldn't be losing sleep over it. That's for sure.
Yeah, so true. So what's coming up? What's where to from here for yourself, and how can the audience find out more about yourself?
Look, for me, it's more of the same. I've just consolidated my area as well. I used to look after the Coast. I don't anymore. So I'm pushing into Tamworth and the New England. So I'm sort of really concentrating on that market at the moment. And Tamworth's as I mentioned, I was there last week. It's a booming market. I'm really excited about the regional markets. Even regional markets used to be sort of in lockstep with the metro markets, but metro market's kind of slowing a little bit at the moment and has some recorded some negative growth as well. But the regional markets, they're coming alive. It's really, really exciting. Major regional centres like Port Macquarie and Coffs Harbour and Tamworth, And the little satellite towns around those regional markets as well now are really, really starting to come alive. So the infrastructure of those little towns, places like Kempsey, Kempsey and Maxville and Barraville and Wauchope, in comparison to Port Macquarie, they're just buzzing and booming at the moment. So that's really exciting. So I'll be continuing to look after Domain, hopefully for the foreseeable future. And with regards, you can follow me on obviously on Facebook and LinkedIn as well.
Fantastic. Excellent. So there you go, Daniel Nasso. Check him out on Facebook and LinkedIn. Really appreciate your time and your pearls of wisdom. And just to give it an update of where things are at for you and also to share some of that knowledge and expertise. So thank you once again.